have the guest in the studio for us to do some discussions on AM Talk. Ras Mubarak is a member of Parliament for Kumbung. Thanks for joining me. Good morning.
Thank you very much indeed. And exciting you've pronounced it accurately.
Kumbung.
Kumbung. That's right.
Kumbung. Well, and we also have for second day, Member of Parliament, Andre Japamesa, also a legal practitioner. Thanks for joining me. Andrew,
always a pleasure.
How was your weekend? You traveled to the constituency?
No, I didn't. My niece got married
over the weekend.
On Saturday, yeah. So
okay.
I was.
So where did it take place?
Yeah, Senchi.
Senchi.
Yeah, the
so
Royal
you went to
Senchi.
Senchi?
Yes, I was in Senchi over the weekend.
Right. That was a long.
Had a great time.
That was a long way.
Yeah, it was.
Well, thank you. We're back, but
well, we were in Parliament.
Yes, yeah. I couldn't make it on Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah, we're in Parliament on Saturday.
What happened? I didn't follow that.
So the legislative instrument to the Special Prosecutors Act, it has to mature in 21 days. Now, if we hadn't sat on Saturday, we would have missed the
last day before you
last day before we rose.
So you had to,
so they had to sort of ferry it in,
yeah.
At the chagrin of many members of Parliament, because mostly weekends are days that we tend to go to our constituencies and do some work. It was a bit of an inconvenience, but for God and country.
All right. But you'll be paid allowances for it. Huge allowances, I'm told.
Not huge. Not huge. And
I know Mesa will not agree, but
well, he knows, and there's as far as allowances are concerned, they are not huge, and then they don't even come in time enough.
I know. You don't have to tell me. I have a couple of US my friends, so I know. Okay, but let's do some discussion. We'll have to start with the NDC, and this whole argument came about whether it was right or appropriate or not for the filing fees of the party to be pegged at some 400,000 Ghana cedis. But even the forms, if you want to pick them, will be at 20,000 Ghana cedis. So, if you're interested in contesting the flag bearership position of the party, then you would have coughed out 420,000 Ghana cedis. The critics out there said that it was too much. Now, we have a formal statement, we're told is coming from a number of the individuals, if not 5 or more, who are interested in that position. And that letter is sent as a petition to the National Executive Council of the party. Is it National
Executive Committee?
Okay, the National Executive Committee of the party. That's the NEC. And copy to His Excellency, former President Jerry John Rawlings, who is the chairperson. Okay.
No, he's the chairperson of the Council of Elders.
Okay. So chairperson.
So there's a Council of Elders and there's a National Executive Committee.
Okay. But this letter is it's been sent to NEC, or?
No, it's to the Council of Elders.
It's been sent to the Council of Elders, yes.
Because it's NEC that took the decision.
Yes, NEC took the decision.
To impose that hoping figure.
The petition has been sent to the Council of Elders, chaired by Jerry John Rawlings. And it says on Thursday, 29 November 2018, the General Secretary of the party held a media conference at the party headquarters, of course, we know. And at this event, the General Secretary reported decisions of NEC concluded the previous evening relating to the guidelines for the upcoming presidential primaries. And if we fast forward, they want the figure reduced. We're told that they would want it to be at a rate of about 100,000 Ghana cedis for the filing fees. And then also 5,000 Ghana cedis to replace the 20,000 for picking up the nomination forms. But it's good that we have the Member of Parliament for Kumbung here. Ras Mubarak is a young person, but we'll call him, as we always do in the media, as one of the leading members of the party. Okay, what's your view on
Okay, so before I get into that, let me salute all persons with this disability. Today is the UN Day, the 3rd of December every year. It's been set out as the United Nations Day for persons with disability. And it is a day to promote an understanding of disability issues and mobilize support for the dignity, the rights, the well-being of persons with disability. And I think as a country, on such occasions, we actually need to give it the necessary highlight it deserves. There are many problems, many issues surrounding PWDs. and it's important that we get to be talking about them. You remember over the weekend, last Friday, for instance, there was an incident at Parliament when one of the members of the Right to Information coalition was inhibited from entering the premises of Parliament by some security officers. And these are things that I believe we should encourage citizens to have an understanding of disability issues and actually to embrace them instead of, treating persons with disability the way we do. Now, having said that, the National Executive Committee of the NDC took a decision last week on the filing fee for presidential aspirants. It was a very interesting meeting. Interestingly, I was in that particular meeting. It ran into the night. Arguments were espoused, so you had members of parliament being represented on NEC. You had representation from the regions and then national executives. So this was not as if it was only the national executives that stood there to discuss this particular issue. And I think the decision to peg the fee or the figure at 400,000 cedis as filing fee came with a lot of consideration. If you look at the bill that the Electoral Commission is proposed to send to us, for instance, for the entire 275 constituencies across the country, the Electoral Commission is going to be charging the NDC 3,000 cedis per constituency. And if you round that up, you're talking about almost 900,000 Ghana cedis, or 9 billion. So we have 275 constituencies, and the Electoral Commission is charging 3,000 cedis
per constituency.
Per constituency,
because the elections will be convened per constituency.
The elections will be convened per constituency. So money is going to the EC alone is about a little over
a million. Just a
little under
825,000
Ghana cedis. So a little under a million Ghana cedis. That's to the EC alone. Now 275 constituencies. You are bringing 9 delegates each from every branch of the constituency. If you take my constituency, for instance, Kumbong, there are overseas communities. Imagine bringing people from overseas communities. The costs, right? TNT for delegates. You're talking about feeding for delegates. You're talking about water, refreshment for delegates. You're talking about security. You're talking about venue, PA system. It's a whole raft of things that need to be put in place
to make sure the election,
make sure that we have a successful election of a flag bearer. And clearly, as I say, Kwanchan DFA, Yedisika, and Eto. I've heard arguments to the effect that we are a social democratic party. Yes, indeed, we are a social democratic party. It doesn't mean we should encumber persons at the grassroots, because ultimately somebody would have to pick up the tab. Somebody would have to pay for it. Are we going to ask our branch executives who work tirelessly, who are also facing some challenges, to pick up the tab? Is it members of parliament who are going to pick up the tab? Is it national executive members or council of elders members who are going to pick up the tab? Ultimately, somebody has to pay for it. And the suggestion was that if persons have expressed interest in leading the party into a flag bearership, into a presidential election, then they should be the ones at least contributing to the party. So this is more or less like an activity to have them also chip in something for a successful Congress. Because if you look at the bill, it's running into millions of Ghana cedis.
Well, 400,000 Ghana cedis, it's not just chipping in something.
How much is too much? And you see, this would have provided, indeed it's provided an opportunity for candidates and their supporters to be innovative. Take, for instance, members of parliament for John Mahama. We are 96 in number, MPs for JM. And on Saturday, we decided to mobilize resources and pay 1,000 cedis each. So 96 of us would have been 96,000 cedis. But we said, let's extend it beyond our circles and invite friends, sympathizers, and well-wishers who might want to chip in something.
Within the party?
Within the party.
Is that why we've seen a viral list that has swelled over 118 or so?
I haven't seen the lists, and we have not put out the lists largely because of privacy issues. Now, I'm sure there are civil servants who may want to chip in something. Looking at the nature of the MPP and the fact that they have a tendency, they have a proclivity to victimize persons who are seen as NDC. We don't want anybody to suffer the consequences of chipping in something for John Mohammed's return. And if you look at the groundswell of support that this has generated, in less than 24 hours, we maxed, we were able to raise more than the 420,000.
How much have you raised so far?
I haven't checked the latest figures yet.
But they could run into?
I'm sure it's about 600,000 cedis.
Okay.
As of the last time I checked.
So the 96
yes.
JM MPs, or MPs for JM.
MPs for JM.
Numbering 96. Now extended beyond that boundary.
Absolutely.
Inviting others.
Inviting others.
Sympathizers and friends.
And friends.
Who want to contribute.
Who believe.
Who want to donate.
Who believe that.
They have raised how much?
I'm sure it's the figure is about 600,000 cedis. Okay. I haven't checked,
But that's unfair to the others, is that not?
That's why I indicated to you that for the first time in the history of our country, we are seeing innovation in party campaign financing or political campaign financing. And one of the problems, one of the issues that have come up in the country is where politicians get money to run campaigns. Now, this is a mass movement. 96 MPs, they've extended it beyond their circle of friendship, and it's generated a lot of resources for President Muhammad to be able to file. Other aspirants should seize the moment. They should rise the occasion. They should make hay while the sun is up by using innovative ways of raising the money. And I don't think the hue and cry about a figure is fairness to the National Executive Committee. We are a party in opposition. As I speak to you, we have bills from the National Congress we held recently that have to be paid, unpaid bills. And now we are going to presidential primaries, more bills. If we are not careful, we may have, our creditors impound party vehicles and party offices and the rest of it. You don't want any of that drama, particularly when you are going into a presidential and parliamentary election. You want to stay focused. You want to use innovation to raise resources to be able to finance the party's activities. So we have used innovation. Yes, it is within their right to petition the Council of Elders or even NEC, but I think we ought to look at the bigger picture, and instead of seeing it as a problem, look at the opportunities that lie within this particular issue and see how best we can mobilize resources to finance the party.
I guess like this is at variance to the normal way by which you would want to invite people to express interest in contesting such positions, like being a flag bearer of a political party. It looks very astounding.
Well, I guess good morning is appropriate, particularly to our cherished viewers, my constituent in 2nd D. And I guess it's also important that I associate myself with the preliminary comments that Ras made regarding the UN Day for the celebration of people with disability. They are our brothers who and sisters who find themselves in that situation and necessarily ought to be embraced. There should be no basis for discrimination against persons with disability in our country at all. So to that extent, it's important that we highlight their plight and the kinds of discriminations that they suffer so that we can sensitize people to do away with those kinds of discrimination and embrace them, you know, for who they are. On the NDC's filing fees, ordinarily, wouldn't have been an issue for me in particular, because I'm not a member of the NDC, and I frankly do not have a lot of interest in whatever happens within their party's organization. But to the extent that they are actors within the political space, necessarily their issues will come up, and we all may be invited to, as it were, say a word or two about them. I mean, you can clearly see the struggle with which my very good friend Ras has attempted to justify these figures that clearly, as far as I'm concerned, and if you listen to the commentary, has been set purely to disadvantage the others and give the party to the highest bidder.
Oh.
In this case, Mr. Mahama. We know, please. You see, Ras, we've heard your party folks speak about who has the money to fund your 2020 campaign. You can pretend not to have heard it. But you know, we have private conversations, not with you. I mean, I'm not making this statement in reference to you at all. People in your party.
But if they are private,
have
Roland,
openly,
you can't put the facts on air. You shouldn't be making references to it.
I haven't mentioned anybody's name,
No,
and
but,
I'll respect.
But that is unfair to His Excellency President Mahama to say that he has the most money.
That's what your party people are saying.
No, who has said that? As I've indicated,
That's
we
what
have raised
your
more
party
than what is
folks
required.
have said. That
Who?
you are
Comment
a party
is
in
free.
opposition,
Comment is free.
and that you need somebody who has the resources, marketability, and all sorts of attributes to lead your party in your quest to come back and take this country back to Egypt in 2020. And Mr. Mahama is the one who fits the bill for you.
According to your
I don't have a problem. You see, but truth be told, 400,000 Ghana cedis.
That's cool.
It is.
Well, the argument, for example, the argument is that if you
Recall
want to be,
2014.
if you want to be a flag bearer,
you see,
you should be able to pool resources.
2014, when we fixed 75,000 cedi as filing fees for our presidential primaries, you heard what they said. You recall the kinds of utterances from the NDC condemning the NPP for setting a high figure of 75,000 Ghana cedis. Fast forward 4 years thereafter, and you are charging what? 400,000 Ghana cedis. You see, the reasons that he's given, that it will cost them in excess of a million Ghana cedis to run the...
Millions, actually.
Well, millions, whatever.
Because this is to help you.
Oh, I don't need any help.
Don't forget, we have a bigger electoral college.
You don't.
Compared to yours.
You don't.
No, we do.
You're organizing the primaries at the constituency levels. Yeah, that's what we did in 2014.
But they have 9,000. You don't have 9,000.
What
no.
9,000 what? There's only 275 constituencies in Ghana.
About
Yeah,
240,000.
They have how many people?
So 9 people per polling station. And how many polling stations do we have? We have 24.
All of them are taking part in
All of them are taking part. Okay. So a bigger electoral college than they have.
That's what you think. We had 17 people per polling station. Across
per constituency. You had per constituency, not
but
per
all our polling station executives voted.
Per constituency. Yours is per constituency.
Yeah, the constituency officers are 9,
instance,
are 17, and 5 per polling station. All the polling station executives voted.
But we have
in our presidential primaries
9 constituency executives. The numbers are bigger than yours.
I don't have a problem.
My constituency, for instance, Kumbong,
it doesn't matter.
About 800
in fact, the more copies you print,
they will be voting in the various constituencies, right?
No, it is not the same people who converged.
Because you had 9,000 delegates approximately.
Absolutely, and they were constituency executives, and the composition of the constituency executives at the constituency level, it's about 28.
Yes.
So 28 people per constituency. They had 17.
This exercise is not going to help you in any way, because
no, I'm just
the
saying,
fact of the matter is that we all know the nature of printing. The more copies you print, the lower. Absolutely. So the cost of printing would not necessarily be the basis.
So there will be food and any venue. Or
food and yes.
But you have to pay electoral
I don't have a problem. You see, so the justification is that 400,000 is the figure. So what if only one person files the nomination? Are you not going to still organize the elections across the country?
There are about 12 people
the entire pool who have indicated an intent. So if you set 400,000 and in the process,
you think it's deliberate?
You
think it's deliberate?
Of course.
Inordinately deliberate.
Oh, Roland. But you see, like I always say, we can't pretend to be ostriches. Oh. We live here. Nobody just came from Mars. We all live in this country. We know the commentary, the issues within both political parties. The subtle and obvious attempt by your party machinery to favor Mr. Mahama is well known.
Clearly, President Mahama is their worst nightmare.
Not at all.
Worst nightmare.
Look, you see,
worst nightmare.
I have always said that whoever your candidate is, and I have my own issues about Mr. Mahama's eligibility for 2020, but that's beside the point. Whoever you bring, we would compare the records. The people of Ghana are increasingly becoming complex, and we'll look at the issues. We'll see where we were in 2016,
and the issues are
and where we've taken this country to in 2020. So I don't have a problem. You see, you can tickle yourself.
No, that's the reality.
See, you can tickle yourselves into thinking that the language you speak is the language of the Ghanaian. Yes, because you are a Ghanaian, your language necessarily will be the language of a Ghanaian.
How do you think?
But we know the kinds of things that you have been saying.
How do you think, ideally, the petition to the Council of Elders needs to be handled? Knowing on one side the utterances of the chairperson of the Council of Elders about how, decorum, discipline needs to come into the rank and file of the party.
I think it's within the right of the persons who have, as it were, written this petition. They know their party structure better. I do not know the highest decision-making body of their party. And I suspect that to the extent that the Council of Elders would have some influence in whatever decisions that are taken, is an appropriate forum to go. In any event, it's not only Mr. Rawlings, former President Rawlings, who is the sole member of the Council of Elders. There would be some senior members of their party in there who can bring some pressure to bear, if you like, on the National Executive Council to review these figures, which clearly are absurd, to say the least.
I mean, you don't expect him to argue otherwise.
The Council of Elders, how should they handle this?
The quick
because
thing,
I think
be sincere to yourself and tell us whether you agree with this 400,000.
If you look at the general observation,
if you were a candidate, if you
look at the general observation,
please.
I mean, the 400,000, everybody's saying it's just too much.
When you say everybody, there was a high decision-making body that took a decision.
Well, people are saying it's unfair.
So they petitioned elders of the party. Now could look at it. If there's a need to review it upward or downward or keep it, it's entirely a NEC decision. But I'm saying in under 24 hours, 96 members of parliament have innovatively
there is no innovation in raising these funds. Look, we as a party have since 2012 had a short code where people contribute. I contribute every day.
Ask people to contribute.
It's still there. 2012.
We've raised.
Thank you for contributing to the new patriotic party. We've done this since 2012.
We've raised more than.
And automatically set on, and every single day.
We have raised,
so what are we talking about?
We have raised. I mean, this is a revolution. You feel threatened by the fact that ordinary Ghanaians teachers,
Do you have a short
nurses.
code, a national short
Yeah,
code?
we do have a short code.
Only for JM.
Only for JM, of course. You know, but I'm sure when we get into the main,
The party
when we get into
that
the
could
main
only
contest,
a few years
when
ago
we get
raised
into the main
huge sums
contest,
of money
I'm sure-
to build the headquarters.
I'm sure
Today it's
we'll
crying
also
that they cannot
consider,
organize a national conference.
I'm sure when we get into the main contest, we'll have a short code for the main election. But we should see this as something positive, that candidates can appeal to their supporters. If 96 members of parliament have raised more than is needed for the forms and the filing fee, I think the other candidates can also appeal to their supporters, sympathizers, and well-wishers to raise some.
If JM was not on the scene, who would have been your next preferred individual?
You are asking me to conjecture. I mean, at this moment, in this election,
This is the reality.
JM is our candidate. The rank and file are interested in JM running.
Okay.
But obviously, if JM wasn't running, Bagbin would have been my candidate.
When are you passing? Okay, let's move on. When are you passing the RTI? What's the tentative schedule, so to speak? Where is it now? It's
still at the winnowing stage, and the winnowing stage is where the committee and plenary will look at the issue line by line, clause by clause, sentence by sentence, and fine tune. You know, and there are, I think, there are about more than 100 clauses to go. So it's quite a lot of work to be done before it's passed. It's unfortunate that it's taken us this long to get RTI, but there's been a demonstration of commitment to this from members of parliament, from leadership and the rest of it. And I'm hoping that we would get to do this, at least in the lifetime of this particular parliament. The other thing I want to point out is the fact that if you look at the district assemblies, for instance, there are ways that ordinary citizens, when we passed the District Assembly Act, in that act, there are ways that ordinary citizens can access information from the District Assembly. But people haven't availed themselves to it. And indeed, for a very long time, there's hardly any news of people at the District Assembly or at the local level accessing information at the District Assembly.
You mean with the status quo?
With the current status quo,
but
they can access information.
But it's not
and
real. It's pretty difficult.
The District Assembly is required by law
for information to be accessed.
The District Assembly is required by law to provide that information. I'm only saying that, look, is it more laws, more acts? Because we have quite a raft of them. But this is the direction that majority of our constituents are nudging us to head to. I am in full support of the passage of RTI, but I'm also urging that we should take advantage of existing regulations, existing laws, like the one embedded in the District Assembly Act, and to at least activate it and see whether or not assemblies are responding or not, and then we can improve upon it. But not having the RTI up until now, I think has been an indictment on all of us, and I'm hoping that in the life of this parliament we will get to pass it.
That's in the life, not Professor Kwe had promised that before you went on recess, something would have. That was at the beginning of the sitting of the parliament.
Yeah, and it's possible.
100?
if
or told that over 100 clauses that needs to be.
Yes,
over 100 clauses,
we've done about 33, and we have about 70 more.
17 sitting
about
days
70
to go.
or so more to go. I say it's possible because, and of course, it would depend on how long leadership propose for us to sit on a daily basis whilst we deal with the appropriations bill, whether time can then be found for us to do the consideration of the right to information bill. It's looking very tight. Yes, because
it's looking what?
Very tight.
Meaning what?
That it's looking like we are not going to be able to do it
deliberately.
It's not deliberate. It's just the timing. It's just not practicable. Of course, if we are asked to sit 18-hour days, we possibly could do it. But as to whether we will come out passing a good law that will be the aspirations of the people is another matter. I think that the commitment from both His Excellency and leadership of Parliament has been demonstrated. Time really has been our challenge.
Per your experiences, you think that it would be after reset next year? There,
I think that the most practicable time we are looking at is probably when we come back during the first meeting of the third session of Parliament. Yes.
All right. Let's see how it goes as far as that is concerned. Yesterday, there was a rather disturbing situation on the campus of the Ghana Institute of Journalism, in which some students were protesting their inability to write their end of semester examination scheduled for Sunday because management had said they had not paid fully their school fees. And also, those who hadn't registered on the online portal could not be in a position to write the exams as well. Well, it seemed to have raised some furore, and tempers were up. And management of the school had subsequently to invite the police to make sure that they calm tensions. Let's bring you a recap of the situation. We'll also tell you about a statement that has been issued by the school saying that the students forthright today could come and write the examinations that were scheduled yesterday.
What began as a silent protest ended in chaos. At some point, some students were seen attacking the office of the Student Representative Council. Others chanted on and on with the hope that school authorities will rescind their decision. Those who spoke to JoyNews said attempts to get their concerns addressed failed. They threatened to take legal action if they are denied the opportunity to write the exam.
My dad paid the fees even before school reopened. As soon as we vacated, 3 weeks after vacation, my dad made the payment, 2,000 cedis. But just because I had problem with their useless portal they have there, I couldn't register, and then you are denying me from writing exams. We are moving straight to the court. We are taking a legal action against the administration.
I was denied all because I was on the student loan. You understand? And the student loan came out publicly on the news that they cannot pay because they have a problem. So the mandate of the student loan has failed. If the school cannot make one with the student loan to allow me to write, I don't know the future of this country.
Right now, we are not allowed to write our paper. I don't know when they are going to have this special exams for us. So definitely, we know that they will let us take a receipt. And that one too, we have to pay an amount of 500 cedis before you write the receipt, which is next year after you have graduated. So it is really, really bad.
As tension rose, police personnel were deployed to restore order. Head of Academic Affairs Matthias Tibu later announced that examinations for the day have been cancelled indefinitely. The police later forced all students to vacate campus. The decision did not go unresisted.
We cannot continue to suffer. As the premier school of communication, we pride ourselves with this accolade, and we continue to suffer this way. Every year, if students are coming to write exams, they will go through these difficulties. When results are out, students have problems with their results. You will see your results on notice board, you go online, a different result is there.
APP claims to be a listening government. If they are truly a listening government and they appointed him here, then they should tell him that there are people who are in genuine difficulties, who are not being able to pay. But some people have paid 60%, 80%. Some people have paid everything, apart from 95 cedis for SRC. And they are saying they should not write. They say they should not write. Why?
SRC General Secretary Na Adole Mofat told JoyNews the SRC is engaging school authorities to ensure that all papers were written without challenges.
The issue at hand is that the management decided to open the portal just once. What happens is that this semester we've opened it more than 3 times. That is to say that the SLC is still speaking for students. And I've been sending messages to them that they should still believe in us. That of course we are here to fight for them, we are here to advocate for them, and that's what we are still doing. We've done that, but it seems some of them needed to show something to know, for the management to know that they are very serious about them getting the chance to write the exams. And we understand that is why we are with them, and we are going to get the issue issue managed. The papers that have been cancelled today, which is media management and PR and counseling, I'm assuring them that it will be rescheduled. The only thing they have to do is they should prepare that anytime they give to them to write their papers, they'll be available to write. And to those who are unable to write, we are going to advocate for them that the rest of the papers, at least they get a chance to write it.
The protesters include diploma, undergraduate and postgraduate students. School authorities present at the time declined commenting. Kenneth Awachus reports for JoyNews.
Well, so that's the situation. But let me start with you. What do you think about the situation first, before we relate it to other institutions and what the need is as to what should be done? If you pay your school fees fully, then you qualify to write the examinations, or strictly just adhere to what the rules are in the various public universities or tertiary institutions, even if they're private?
Well, I think it's an unfortunate development. Reading the story, was really wondering what really the issue is. Is it that the students are claiming they've paid, but that there's some system failure that did not allow them to register? Then clearly the school cannot use that as basis to prevent them from writing the exam. But if it's an issue of you not having paid your fees in full, then at what point was it communicated that failure to pay school fees in full will lead to you not being allowed to write an exam? And why wait until the day of the exam to try and resolve that? You know, so I think that we as students ought to take our responsibilities seriously, if you ask me. Because there are some things that is practically between life and death. You can't joke with your exams. And if you knew that if you don't pay your fees, you will not be allowed to write the exam, you need to do whatever it takes to pay it. We've all been in those situations before. When I was in law school, at a point, it was tough. But I knew that if I don't find the money to pay the school fees by
the economy was better then. Now the economy is difficult, even though the numbers are. They are saying it. They said it in the inside.
Well, I don't know whether the economy was better then. In any event, when I was in law school, it was an MPP government that was in power. And so I guess if the economy was better then it gives me hope that having resolved all the mess that we inherited from the NDC, hopefully by next year, things will get better. Because the finance minister in his budget presentation told us all the story of where we were, where we are, and where we're going. And so that in itself is comforting. Better times clearly are ahead of us. We have been an emerging country for years. We had challenges, necessarily. We have issues every now and then. But when you have a government that clearly has demonstrated its capacity to resolve the issues, we can only proffer them more support to enable them achieve the objectives that they've set for all of us. But to the GIJ issue, I think that the students' reps and the school authorities should engage seriously so that people who have clear issues of the school's own system not working ought to be made, some special arrangement ought to be made to enable them write the exam. And those who have not paid their fees, I think they should necessarily make arrangements with the school if possible. I'm wondering why anybody will wait until the exam period before any said conversation. It's hard because we all know the consequences of these things, and ordinarily they are communicated way in advance for everyone to know that, look, if you don't pay fees by a certain date, these are the consequences, you know.
Roland, I'm beside myself with shock, completely out of touch with the realities on the ground.
Who is out of touch?
My brother Mesa, completely out of touch. Completely.
What's the reality?
Completely insensitive.
What is the reality?
That's what I'm coming to. Completely insensitive to the plight of students who are struggling to get by. And listen to the language. As a student, you should know that by a certain period, does it know what people are going through just to put themselves in school? The difficulties. Look, I know a couple of people at JIJ. Both have lost parents at a tender age. They had to sell newspapers, struggle just to get to where they are. Banging on government student loan to shepherd them to a higher education. They are not getting those support. And you sit on TV and tell them that they ought to have known better, that there's an exam in the offing, and for that matter, they should have made necessary arrangements to pay for that. People are in GIJ from all from all parts of the country. People are struggling to pay rent. They are struggling to even get to campus. They are struggling to house themselves, struggling to feed themselves, going through a rough time thanks to the super incompetence of your administration. Times have gone up. If people were paying 20 Ghana cedis in and out as their transport fee, or fare rather, to GIJ, today they are paying a lot more than that. And you can't sit on TV and speak in these terms. It's unfortunate.
He's talking about rules. Rules are rules.
Rules are rules. You need to put a human face to rules. Yes, indeed, students have to pay their school fees. Why? We've had instances where arrangements have been made for students to write their exams, and before they come pick up their certificates, they are made to pay for the fees before they pick up their certificates. And you see, for the first GIJ, you can go and check. This is the worst form of student demonstration we've seen in the history of GIJ. It's never happened. And thanks to the incompetence of the person they put up there as rector. When we were in government, did you hear anything of this nature?
Why has it come to that? Has it come to MPP NDC?
No, that is what it is.
Student owe fees. You say MPP NDC.
Student owe fees. You have a management, and management can't put a human face.
What has that got to do with MPP NDC?
Because the decisions you take would one way or the other lead into civil disobedience.
Why is?
And that's exactly what we've seen.
Meaning what?
First of all, they said they were going to put a portal in place.
They have put a portal in
for students to pay. There are challenges 2 years now. You haven't been able to resolve that. 2 years. Under this same person, you dismissed an NDC person and put in 2 years. You haven't been able to resolve that. And in 2 years, look at the consequences. Imagine if the students had taken the laws into their own hands. And we should commend them highly for...
You're commending the students?
I'm commending the students highly. For
being unruly?
For expressing civil disobedience.
Okay, not being unruly.
Civil disobedience. What they have done, they haven't destroyed property. I think that's commendable. Elsewhere, it's resulted in all manner of things. And I think management would have to sit up, put an arrangement in place, have them write the exams. Because the difficulty is that if, as they've explained, if they don't write the exams now, they'll be forced to resit it. And that's another year for them. Already they are struggling. Adding another year onto their stay in school will be
because worse. Already the GIJ came out that you're not going to write your paper the next semester.
So can you imagine?
That's already, I thought that was
already burden on parents.
And it means if you're graduating, you can't graduate in your graduating.
You have to graduate the following year.
Yeah.
That's extra burden.
Yeah.
You know, so when we get opportunities like this, we should and imagine if somebody is from his constituency listening and going through a tough time, and you tell that person that he should have paid his fees. When the person is
but the reality is that you should pay your fees.
But they haven't said they won't pay.
If you can't pay your fees, then you need to address this. Did they try to address the situation?
There are two facets to this issue. There are those who have paid their fees,
And because of the functioning of the online portal.
Because of the online portal problems, the problems associated with it, they've been, it's indicated that they haven't paid their fees. And there are those who are asking for time. I mean,
and you're saying that they should have been a listening administration.
We're building a fair society. Today we are talking about issues of disability and the fact that there's a need to build a fair society. There's a need to give everybody an opportunity. You are touting FSHs, and then you sit on TV and say, by the fact that people can't pay their fees, they ought to be denied an opportunity to write their exams.
But that's not what I said.
No, that's what you imply.
You see, this is your populist attempt.
It's not a populist attempt.
No, that's exactly what you thought.
Students are going through a hard time, and you are telling them that they should have paid their fees by now. Where are they going to find the money? Look, for those of them who haven't paid yet, if they had the money, they would have paid it. So the fact that the fees has not been paid clearly gives you an indication of some level of suffering by many of the students, and you should be empathizing with them instead of siding with an administration that is completely out of touch.
Now, Mr. Massa, it can't just be out of the blue that majority or even many students haven't paid their fees, right? And if you listen to the inset, many of them have indicated it's because they have socio-economic problems.
Yes, I agree. People have socio-economic problems. And the statement that I made, unless of course you took a certain preconceived notion not to listen to me.
You mean him or me?
Yes. Look, all I'm saying is that
by now.
But at what point do you make arrangements with the school authorities for intervention on the day of the exam or before?
That's what he said. He said that you shouldn't wait till the last
Why
day.
wait till the day of the examination?
And use giddy giddy giddy.
They have.
That's what. That's
you understand? Absolutely.
He says that
I'm saying that
you don't have to wait.
you don't have to wait until the day of the exam to ask for some intervention to be made.
Even before, okay, I have spoken to some of the students. They have made attempts to settle the fees, except that management wouldn't listen. And that is so sad, looking at the difficulty and the challenges they are going through.
That's a wrapper for me.
I agree. I mean, and it's unfortunate that people who have studied for an entire semester will not have the benefit of writing the exam.
This one, the rector needs to do something about it.
I think
he needs to let them write the exam.
Well, if that's the conclusion that the school authorities reach with them, by all means.
But even if it's not a conclusion, he needs to let them write the exams.
Well, that's
because of fair for their certification or will continue school.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm saying that all that conversation couldn't have taken place before the day of the examination. Because if you know you haven't paid your fees
and you will not pay, if you will not be in a position to do the
before the exams,
I think that's the important.
School reps, student representative councils, to make an intervention with the school authorities that look, we have X number of students who are not in a position
to whether they have and the authorities will not listen. I think that's also an
I was actually speaking to students before we came on air.
Okay.
They have.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
the new man is just adamant.
I don't think so. That what interest would he have in depriving students from writing the examination?
Well, thank you very much. Andrew Japamesa is a legal practitioner, member of Parliament for 2nd year, helping us do the discussions this morning. Very handsome man. Yeah. Andrew, thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, another handsome man is Ras Mubarak, member of Parliament for Kumbung, and he is going to speak in Parliament today on disability. We wish him well in his speech that he has put together for the plenary. Thanks for joining me, Ras.
Thank you very much indeed.